Welcome to the Farmers Branch Chamber Chat. I'm Executive Director Grace Spees. We're here interviewing community leaders from the business sector, the educational sector, as well as our political candidates, here to bring you value on what's up to date and happening in the Farmers Branch community. And just ignore my cat with a cone. And with us today is Principal Chad Hunter of Vivian Field Middle School. How are you, Chad?
I'm doing well, Grace. What's your cat's name?
Good to hear it. You're always so happy every time I see you. Is there a secret trick to that?
No, I mean, you got to love life. I love what I do for a living, and I get to work with awesome people. So,
Awesome. Don't mind this guest. I was going to kick her out of the broadcast studio, but otherwise she'll claw at the door for the next 20 minutes.
she can stay.
She's really needy when she has a cone on, so, Anyways, let's get down to business. So what's it like being
Thanks for having me on, Grace. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. We're glad to have you. So what's it like being a principal this time of year with all the uncertainty going on? Not just to mention what's going on economically with the pandemic, but also, I don't know how many people know, but the school is currently under construction. So.
Yes, it is. Yeah, there's a lot going on at Vivian Field Middle School. And yeah, being a principal in these uncertain times there's a lot about it that is exactly the same and is what I've always done as a principal. And there's a lot of things that are very different. Yes, there are things that are very strange. There are certain things that I've never thought I'd have to be leading through, whether it's figuring out PPE, figuring out how we can socially distance to the best of our abilities but there's a lot of things that are also the same. There's a lot of inspiring things that are happening. There's a lot of resiliency and grit that we're seeing from not just our teachers, but from our families, our parents. We've asked, they're having to be more involved than they've ever been. From last spring when we went through this and we were 100% remote to now where we have a certain percentage of students at home and a certain percentage of students in the building. We've never been more kind of united as a community, really. And I was really nervous about that as we came back to school in August. And to my surprise, our parents and family and community members have been the most supportive, the most encouraging, the most understanding. It's kind of wild. It seems like the world around us has this big divide, but not in our community. Our community they have united with our schools. And for obvious reasons, we can all get behind educating children, and everybody loves children, and we want what's best for children. So if there's anything that can unite us, it's most certainly our kids.
That's awesome. And that's, one reason some people ask, why host people from the school when you're a chamber? But, we understand that's our future workforce, and that is the future of our country. And so every bit of this community is just as important. And it's exciting to hear that there's a unity amidst all the uncertainty.
Yeah, no, it's been amazing. It doesn't mean that there haven't been challenges. There doesn't mean that we haven't had to learn a lot of new things very quickly. But I tell you, if you see a teacher, you need to thank them relentlessly, because the things that they are pulling off and the hours that they are working to make sure that we are doing the very best to educate kids right now is not easy. And they're doing amazing things, and they did amazing things in the spring, and they're doing amazing things now.
That's awesome and exciting to hear. When I spoke to you the other day, you had mentioned that, teachers are working harder than they ever had, and, they're facing new challenges. How are you, as the leader, as the principal, supporting and encouraging your staff and your teachers and the rest of your team?
Yeah, that's one of the challenges, is that although we are in the building, we can't have our normal team building activities. We can't have our normal faculty meetings where we're all in the library together. So that's been a tough challenge, but we're trying to maintain the consistency that we normally have, where when we do meet, whether it's virtually or not, we are still going to celebrate our staff and the amazing things that they're doing with shout outs. We start every Zoom meeting with gratefulness. We always start with the things that we're grateful for. Right now, one of the things I like to tell staff is focus on the things that you can control, not the things that you can't control. Well, there's a lot more things right now that we can't control than we can control. And I also have a lot to learn myself. So teachers are teaching a hybrid style of teaching where they're teaching kids both in person and remotely. And I have to live that myself and feel it myself, get in classes and teach it myself and show that empathy to them, that I understand, what they're going through right now and what's realistic right now. Our teachers have very high expectations for themselves. And I have to sometimes pull back for them and say, no, I know what your expectation is, but we have to have realistic expectations or we're going to burn out really quick. We know we want what's best for our kids, but we have to do it in a way that is realistic for the circumstances that we're in.
That's awesome. I think, you hit the nail on the head. Managing expectations at a time like this is super key for them, for you as a leader. It does help just alleviate some of the stress. I imagine that, is going on just in multiple facets.
Yeah, we looked at an article last week, and there was a quote in it from a guy, I hope I get his name right, Brian Dyson, who's the CEO of Coca-Cola. And he used an analogy when he gave a commencement speech about juggling balls, right? Juggling things. And right now, it's really important that educators know which of those things that we are juggling that are glass and which of those things are rubber, meaning that we can't drop, there's certain things that we can't drop that are glass. They're going to get tarnished or break if we drop them. But there's a lot of rubber balls that we can totally drop. Let them drop. It's okay. It's fine. And those glass balls include our family, our friends, our spirit, our health. We can't drop those things. And that's a big one right now for our teachers because they are working really hard. They're taking work home when they should be, focused on their spouses or their family members. They're focused on trying to be the best high flex teachers they can be. And so we've got to really, as a leader, have to make sure they are balancing those things out and do an inventory of what is really important and what's not.
That is dynamite.
It's awesome, isn't it?
I have not heard that.
I'll send you the quote. The quote is amazing, Grace. It is perfect for anybody right now.
Yeah, and I think that we all, right, are navigating that. What do you prioritize is kind of, to the tune of that would be some people's words. But what's glass, what's rubber? And very important for that to be, kept in mind. So tell me, like, what qualities do you feel or character, has come out in you through this? Like maybe, I know you mentioned resiliency, grit, for your staff and obviously for yourself, but what do you feel like has been the biggest thing that has challenged you that you've grown in?
Oh, that's a good question. I think a lot of the same leadership traits good leadership traits are good leadership traits in a pandemic, in a non-pandemic, staying calm, cool, collected, never being too high, never being too low, and really modeling that for the team. I think, communication has obviously changed, right? I had to adapt as a leader in my communication very quickly. I learned how to do looms. I learned how to do YouTube videos. There was a lot of things that I had never really done because I could just walk down the hall or have a big meeting or just talk to people in person. So I had to adjust in that way. And I had to give myself some grace on that too, and some patience on that, because I pride myself in being a really good communicator. And I recognize very quickly that that's not going to be perfect right now. There are going to be things that are, everything's always better when talked in person. And I had to let myself realize that there's going to be certain things missed here or there and mistakes made because of the communication challenges. And it's okay. It can be fixable. If it's fixable, we're going to be just fine. And so just kind of reminding myself that, not to be too hard on myself if things get missed here or there, because it's a lot more challenging to clearly communicate, sort of the plan moving forward each day.
Do you feel a little more millennial with all your new tech skills?
Yes, absolutely. We've learned all kinds of things, and honestly, that's kind of the cool part. There is a silver lining to what we're going through. There are so many things that we are learning that we're going to continue to do forever. Or get better at forever, no matter what, when things get normalized again, we're going to, looms are awesome. We're going to keep using those. For me, when I communicate with my parents, I had never really done videos for my parents, but I thought it was really important throughout this that they see my face and hear my voice. Well, I still think that's important even when we get through this. Our parents don't come to school every single day. So I still think there's a lot of things that we've learned and figured out that we're going to continue to do moving forward.
That's awesome. So, switching gears a little bit, you kind of mentioned a couple sentences ago, rubber, glass, and those
Right.
things, your health and some of your personal care things. What do you do to stay physically, emotionally, and mentally sharp?
Yeah, that's been a tough one. I will say when we weren't in the building, that was I might have gotten in the best shape of my life. I had a lot more time to go running and to work out, which I enjoy doing, and it definitely helps mentally. Now that we've been back in the building, that's been more of a challenge. But I think we all face that, and it's okay to recognize that that's a continuous struggle, right? There's going to be good weeks, there's going to be good months, there's going to be bad months, and recognizing where you are and taking stock in that, and then regroup. Right now, I'm in the regroup stage. I need to get back to running. I need to get back to some of my exercise and health. I have gotten back into reading. I did a lot of reading over the summer, and that kind of shut down in August when we got back in the building. And I certainly reading is important to me, and being a lifelong learner, and modeling that for our staff. And we're continuous educators as educators. So if I'm not continuously learning, that hurts my spirit, and it's something that I need to keep doing. So I have been doing a lot of reading recently, but right now I'm in the regroup stage on the exercise front for sure.
What's the best book you've read recently?
So I am not really a fiction person, but I started Harry Potter over the summer. And so I finished the first two books right before school started. I just started the third book. I'm also reading a couple of educational books that nobody else will think is all that interesting: policy foundation in education, and educational leadership, those kinds of things. But so I've got a few books going, but I do prefer Harry Potter over the other two books.
I have not ever been able to read a Harry Potter book. There's so many made up words that I can't keep
Yeah.
them straight. And
I don't even know if I'm pronouncing them correctly in my head. When I say them out loud to kids in the building, they correct me on the pronunciation.
I think you should just watch the movies. That's what I did.
What we do is, after Daddy finishes one of the books, me and my kids do watch the movie, but we're not allowed to watch the movie until Daddy finishes the book.
Awesome. Well, now it's going to be one of my next questions. What kind of boundaries do you have in order to be able to have a healthy family life? Love your wife, love your kids, get quality time with them. Are you good at shutting down when you leave school for the day?
No, I'm not very good at that. And excuse our bell. No, that's a tough one. It is, and it's something that I'm continuously trying to get better at. I have about a 20-minute commute home, and it is usually a battle in my head on the way home to try to detach from work, to try to detach from constantly thinking through the many pieces that go on at a school building. And I have a very patient and kind wife that knows that sometimes I have that challenge, and she's really good at reminding me or refocusing me. And yeah, and I have two children, and obviously they want my attention, my full attention, not my surface level attention when my brain is really thinking about other things. We try to eat dinner as a family every single night. That's really important to just kind of talk about the day, reflect upon the day. We've been back into our kids. Both my kids play soccer. My son plays baseball. And so I coach my daughter's soccer team. And there was a thought at one point that, Chad, hey, you got a lot going on. Maybe you shouldn't coach. And that's not okay. Like, I have to make that time for my daughter. That's important to my daughter. And having those practices and being the coach at those games, that helps me too, stay accountable to my kids. And I'm going to continue to be involved in those kinds of things. But you're right, Grace. It's not easy. Your brain is constantly going, but that's something that's a work in progress always. And some days I do better than others.
Yeah, I'm going to just kind of reflect. I feel like, probably a lot of what you're going through and what a lot of people are going through, it makes me think of the book that we've been doing with Rotary, Make Your Bed. Mm-hmm. And, I think for all of us, this is a circus. This is, we're doing all of the things and all of the training, and then we're doing extra training, whatever that may look like. So this is kind of that, even though the whole world is, there's a lot of things that the pedal has lifted, but in other areas, it's like the pedal is, pushed further down, and we're 100 miles an hour in our realms of, influence and responsibility. And then, so trying to juggle that, I'm sure is a lot, but that's what I've been kind of just trying to tell myself to make it feel good. Okay, this is a circus. This is a circus. Like, we're going to be stronger for it.
Yeah. And I think it's really important that people know too, that our teachers have had to learn so much. That is, obviously I'm talking about the challenge of myself to turn it off when I get home and focus on my family. That's a struggle right now for our teachers too. They are doing things they've never done before, so they don't feel like they're doing any of it well. They're doing so much, right? They don't feel like they're doing any of it well. So what do you do when you don't think you're doing something well? You continue to work harder and harder and harder. And sometimes that can be a detriment, right? You got to find that sweet spot. You have to be able to detach from that with what's realistic, and then really focus on your family, your friends, and some of those things that you need spiritually to be in a good place mentally.
Yeah, somebody recently shared this with me. I mean, right, we all know the classic like math bell curve, and that, there is a level of diminishing returns when you get to a certain level of stress, time, anxiety, in which, there's peak performance, and then you go past that and you're almost just stressing yourself out more. Right. And it feels like the work is harder because you hit resistance. And you're not getting the results that you are if you're properly caring and getting rested. But again, I know that that's way easier said than done, especially when, I know some of these, I'm sure teachers, parents, yourself feel like they have the weight of the world on their shoulders. How do you ever let off the gas pedal in those areas? But again, just kind of understanding that there's a place of peak performance and there's a place where you're just working harder to get potentially less results.
Yeah, and that's easier said than done under normal circumstances, and obviously it's very challenging now when we're learning all these new things, and we feel like we have little control over certain things that we used to have a lot of control over. As a staff, we try to do that not having that time to be team building and sharing, and like I said, usually in faculty meetings we're doing lots of learning. But now it's more about like, hey, we're just going to share. We're going to share what we're going through, share, socially, emotionally, where we are right now. Talking through things that you're asking me about. How are you finding a balance? What are your rubber balls that you can drop? I mean, those are the things that we're doing now instead of what we would normally be doing, which is professional development and things like that. It's a lot about morale and making sure that we're finding that sweet spot in that bell curve that you're talking about.
Yeah, for sure. So what do you think? I wanted to make a comment / maybe a question, but it's one thing I've thought about since, we went shut down and teachers and school went virtual in the spring. Honestly, right, as a business professional, it is an upgrade of skills. It's not to mitigate that it's hard, but, teachers have, who may have wanted to do an online classroom before or didn't really know how, right? Their skills just went up. The skill set of students is now going to go up in some capacities. And so I just think, again, like you said, looking for the silver linings, that when we come out of this, there are some great things. And, if I was the teacher union rep, I'd be advocating for bigger paychecks because the right skill set just increased.
Yes. We have teachers that have been teachers. I have a couple teachers at Vivian Field that have been teachers for 30 years. And if you walk in their room right now, they have multiple screens set up. They have a webcam going. If you had told them a year ago that they were going to be able to do all of this stuff, they would have laughed at you. And they're doing it. They're connecting with kids virtually. They're using all this technology. They're getting new. And CFB ISD has done a fabulous job of getting our teachers the technology that they need to do this. They have new webcams, new laptops. They have all this, but again, there are teachers that they didn't even like a computer at all in general. And now they're doing 15 different things on the computer all at one time. It's really amazing to just see how quickly these teachers have adapted, especially the ones that were very old school traditional teachers.
That's awesome. All right, let's throw one or two more questions at you real quick. You do work with a lot of different people. When we count teachers, parents, students, staff, right? The district, is kind of dealing with the business side, I'm sure, of running a school versus the educational side. What do you feel like are the interpersonal skills that are necessary for your type of role? And what have you developed? What do you see an opportunity to develop?
Yeah, this one sounds pretty obvious, but you have to be likable. And so, like, what does likable mean? I mean, be nice to people, right? Listen to them when they're talking. Have empathy from where they're coming from, and always reminding yourself that in my role, when whether it's parents, whether it's students, whether it's staff, when I'm communicating with someone individually, it's really important to that person. And I may see the bigger picture that this is whatever we're having that conversation about is really not a huge deal. It's a huge deal to that person. And I have to make them feel as though it is a big deal and that I also agree with them, and supporting them. And with making someone feel heard is a really important skill to have in my position. Making them feel supported, following up with people when you have a certain conversation. Those are really important in my role. There's a lot of moving pieces, and just understanding what our parents are going through has really been a big one for me when I talk with parents. And even though they're not, our parents have been wonderful, they have obvious reasons to be frustrated by certain things. And me having the ability to understand that and be able to try to support them the best that I can and make them feel heard is really, really important. And like I said earlier, for the staff, it's important for them to know that I'm living this with them. I'm very transparent with them, and that I'm going to go teach classes. I'm gonna help wipe off desks with the disinfectant. Nothing is beneath me as a leader. I think is really, really important as well. I'm not sure if I'm even answering your question at this point, Grace, but there's a lot of the same skills before the pandemic are the same leadership skills that I have to be even better at now, and through more challenging channels. And so, I like I said earlier, I love to have parents be able to talk to them one-on-one and in person, and that's not happening. So how do I do that over the phone in a way that makes them feel heard?
That's awesome. And I love what you said there. It's something that, we talk a lot about. Perhaps it's even an overused term, but, being that servant leader, not being above any task. And I think that people really respect those who are willing to roll up their sleeves and get down and dirty with them, who don't just sit in their office and say, you should do this, that, or the other. And, who are on the battlefield getting muddy, dirty, bloody, all together. It definitely creates a greater camaraderie. So anything else you want to add to encourage other leaders, other principals, teachers, whoever may be listening to this? Floor's yours.
Yeah. Thank you, Grace, and I appreciate you having me on. I just, I think we all, it's kind of cliche, but we're all in this together. And I know that seems so obvious, but we're all navigating this together. And CFB's motto, "Together we can," I don't think has ever been more true. And like I said, education has been a uniting front. And I'm proud to be an educator. I am incredibly inspired every day by what our educators are doing. I'm incredibly inspired by what our children are doing, the resiliency and grit that we have seen. It's unbelievable. Their attitude, their positivity, and then again, our parents and what all they're balancing from having to work to maintain a living, yet somehow support their students and their academics, and look at all the communication that they're getting from our campus, from the district, and keeping up with all of that. There's a lot on everybody's plates right now, and it's not just one person who has a lot on their plate. It's all of us that have stuff on our plate. So, but with all that being said, the way we're handling it is inspiring. It's amazing. And if you can focus on that rather than all of the negativity that's going on around us, it's you wake up every day excited to come to work for sure. And I know I do.
That's awesome. And again, as somebody who sees you once a week at Rotary and you're just around, you always are just positive, upbeat. And I can tell that is, a gift that you carry. It's deeper than just, it's your personality, it's your character. Like I can tell that it's deeply embedded in you and probably reflects, every time you walk down the halls and dealing with construction and the pandemic and all of the things. I imagine that just, makes it better for everyone around you.
Well, I certainly try to every day, Grace. I appreciate you saying that.
Absolutely. And I'm going to chime in. I like how, the school district's motto is together we can. And it is kind of funny how mottos play out. Our hashtag this year is the chamber. When we started, it was 2020. We met at Essilor, which is a vision company. So we thought, hey, our future's bright. And, the sunglasses. And there's a kind of at times you're like, okay, like didn't expect this when we had this happy, cheerful tagline. But, sometimes just having that little pat phrase is kind of a mantra. And, it can go deeper than just a tagline that, seemed catchy to go with the new logo.
Well, yeah, and you learn a lot about yourself and you learn a lot about your team when you're faced with adversity, right? And that's the part that I'm super proud of, is because this is the biggest adversity challenge we as educators have ever been faced with, but we've also learned about that educators can handle it. And we've learned that educators have a lot of grit and resiliency, and so do our kids, so do our parents. So there's definitely a silver lining to this wild 2020 that we're living through right now.
So have you bought your 2021 planner yet?
Not yet, but I'm super excited to get it.
Good. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Chad. Really appreciate your time. If there's anything we at the Chamber, our business community can do to support the school, the teachers, the students, please, by all means, reach out. Let us know how we can support you.
Thank you, Grace. Thanks for having me on, and thanks for all that you do for the Farmers Branch community.
Absolutely. Have a good one.
You too.
Thank you all for joining us for today's Chamber Chat. Just to remember to get out there and vote this campaign season. Also, the Credibility Nation Summit is coming up Friday and Saturday, October 9th and 10th. Make sure you get registered. If there's anything that we can do to support you or your business, please let us know. Have a great day.